it's William Bell. Welcome back to our series on Was the Second Coming in AD70, where we are discussing the division in Matthew 24, whether it is a division between Matthew 24, 1 through 34 and Matthew 24, 36. The first section being 70 AD, the second section being an alleged future return of Christ. This is based on a paper written by, an article written by Ben F. Vick Jr., where he sought to respond to the AD70 teaching in an attempt to refute it by saying that Matthew 24 has a division in it, one being the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, and the other being the second coming that is yet future to us today. And we have pointed out in our response that this position cannot be sustained scripturally, and we continue to do so. We are in his concluding arguments where he has summarized and pointed out some things that we do want to address. Now, in this video, which is video, let's see, I think we're in video number 11, and I hope that I haven't messed up the order, but if I'm calling them out wrong, you'll know which one they are, because once they're done, we'll have them in the correct order. But on my paper, which I just decided to keep track of since there were so many, because I didn't know how many there were going to be, I have number 11. So just disregard what I'm saying if it doesn't match up with the facts on the number. But anyway, the point is he has stated that what we believe is the same thing that Jehovah's Witnesses believe. Now, what happens here is what we call a mad dog tactic in debate. This is where a person will cite something that they believe is false or absurd and just totally off the wall in order to prejudice the minds of the readers or the listeners or the viewers by using what we call guilt by association. We call it a mad dog tactic in debate, and that's where the saying comes from. A person, let's say your neighbor's dog, and you take soap and suds and everything and just put it in your neighbor's dog's mouth, and then he goes around and looks like he's foaming all at the mouth. You've seen dogs that maybe have sickness or some disease or whatever, and they're just foaming at the mouth, etc. And so then he'll go around the neighborhood shouting, "Mad dog, mad dog, mad dog." Well, everybody who sees that dog will look at him with all these soap suds coming out of his mouth and think that he's got some kind of disease, and they want to stay away from this dog, and everybody gets frightened of this dog. And so everyone should be afraid of him as a result of that. Well, that's what this tactic is called, when you start taking a person's position and you find some other position that you feel is absurd or you feel it's very false. Then you say, well, see, they believe the same thing this person believes, and therefore their view must be false. That's called a mad dog tactic. It's an underhanded thing that's done in debating. I don't think that it was done in an underhanded way. I think he honestly feels that our position is the same as Jehovah Witnesses' position. I'm going to demonstrate that it is not, but that's the tactic. I just wanted you to understand that. But I'm not attributing any false motive from that. There are times when a person's position is the same as someone else's, and I'm actually going to make the same, but I'm going to prove it. I'm not simply going to assert it. I'm not just going to state it. And of course, he has the opportunity to do a rejoinder and respond to anything that I'm saying here. But let's examine to see if his charge holds. Now, by associating the view of AD70 with Jehovah's Witnesses, the aim is to prevent anybody from even taking a look at it. If you oppose Jehovah's Witnesses teaching, then the point is you won't even look at it if they say, oh, that's the same thing they teach. But I'm here to tell you that's not what we teach, and I think it's important for you to know the difference. And just recently, I had a 2-hour discussion with Jehovah's Witnesses probably about 2 weeks, maybe now going on 3 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks before I responded to his article, before I wrote his article, and now I'm doing these videos, where I met with 2 of their ministers. And I assume these were 2 of their sharpest ministers in that Kingdom Hall witness where I went to visit them. And the reason I went there was because they had come to my house. At least one of them had been to my house before. I had sat down across my table and had a discussion with him on these very things, to which he disagreed that we believe the same thing. In other words, he understood that I wasn't saying I believed in what his view was, which I'll explain to you. And then I met with them for 2 hours. And my purpose of meeting with them was to demonstrate the difference between their doctrine of saying the kingdom is coming and we need to be prepared for the kingdom. And I was showing him that all these things have already been fulfilled. Well, they rejected that, just like Brother Vic is rejecting it. They understand we're not teaching the same thing. As a matter of fact, they were on their defense the whole time we were having a discussion. They tried to refute it. They were unsuccessful, but they don't agree with it. I can assure you of that. And I want to point out that difference. Now, let me say this. Here's one thing I noticed, because I also spend a little bit of time in their assembly and listen to them teach in their assembly. They believe in love, and I not only have that confirmation from them directly in their teaching, I have it from a person that I know in my own congregation who has relatives who are Jehovah's Witnesses. And she also affirms that they love people, they evangelize. Who could deny that? They're knocking at people's doors almost every Saturday and sometimes during the week. So they evangelize. They believe in helping their neighbors, both locally and around the world. But guess what? So does Brother Vic. He believes in love. He believes in evangelizing. That's what he was doing when he wrote his paper, and what he does when he speaks and seeks to save the lost. He believes in helping his neighbor, both locally and around the world. So does that mean he's a Jehovah's Witness? You see, that's what happens when you throw these mad dog tactics out. They come back to hunt you. Does the fact that he believes in these things, which are all good, I believe them too. I believe in love. I believe in evangelizing. I believe in helping neighbors near and abroad, and have done so just like I'm sure they all have done. But does that mean I'm a Jehovah's Witness? Does that mean that we agree on everything, and particularly on our eschatological doctrine? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean Vic is a Jehovah's Witness. But why make that argument? It was designed, as I said, to prejudice minds. And that's what people do when they can't answer arguments. They look for ways to prejudice those who listen. But here's the rub. Vic's eschatological paradigm is more closely aligned to the Jehovah's Witnesses paradigm than mine is. And there's just one point of agreement on the eschatological paradigm that was under discussion, and I'll even show you the distinction between that in a moment. But the paradigm of the amillennial view, which Vic holds, and he's not the only one who holds it, is even more closely aligned to the Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine than the one text he cited against us, which is generally 2 Peter chapter 3 is the text that they usually cite. In other words, their doctrine of eschatology is very similar. Now, here's what I mean. The Jehovah's Witnesses teach that Jesus returned in 70 AD. They agree with that. they'll read Matthew 24 and Luke 21 and say this happened in 70 AD. They use 70 CE. They said this happened in 70 CE to destroy Jerusalem. Well, isn't that what Vic is arguing for in Matthew 24, 1 through 34, that it happened in 70 AD? But let's take it a step further. See, here's what we say. We say everything in Matthew 24 was 70 AD. And that's it. There is no future fulfillment. There is no dual fulfillment. It was a one-time event that happened or occurred in 70 AD. But Vic's position is, here's something that happened in 70 AD, but there's going to be a future coming. Well, the Jehovah Witnesses say this happened in 70 AD, but there's going to be a future coming. Well, doesn't that sound like those two positions are more closely aligned than what he's charging me with? Or what he charges those of us who teach 70 AD, because he wasn't responding directly to me, but he was in the sense of attacking the position. And so we're not responding, quote, directly to him in that sense. We're responding to his position. And we want to make that clear, as I've tried to do throughout. And so that means that his doctrine on eschatology follows more closely with the Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine than ours does. We don't have a future coming, but the Jehovah's Witnesses do. So they have a 70 AD coming and a future coming. Vic has a 70 AD coming and a future coming. We just have a 70 AD coming. Do you see the difference? So if somebody's going to cry mad dog, I think that applies more to his position than it does to ours. Now, if he doesn't agree with that, then he has to agree that his use of the mad dog tactic, that his use of trying to prejudice the minds in saying we believe the same thing that Jehovah's Witnesses believe is a false argument, is an unjust way to approach this discussion. And that's all I need to say about it. Next, in video number 12, we're going to talk about his argument that says we have no hope. That if you believe that Christ returned in 70 AD, it destroys our hope. So we're going to address that in the next video. For now, subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment, pro or con. We don't care if you oppose us. As a matter of fact, we like to get those objections because just like we got them here, it gives us an opportunity to respond to them. And because we don't know what your objection is, it may be something we have not considered. It may be something we didn't think was important to address at the time, or it was not top of mind, or it may be one that we have never considered, and therefore it gives us an opportunity for further study to see how to do that. So you actually help us out when you raise an objection. And we're not opposed to changing our position on a text, on a position that we've held, or even if you can convince us to change our overall view on Christ's return in 70 AD. If you've got the proof, we ask you to submit it, and we definitely will consider it. And if it's valid, we'll make the change. Our aim is to only understand and accept what the Bible teaches on the subject. So with that, go ahead and leave that comment. Visit us at our website, www.allthingsfulfilled.com, and subscribe to the video. Till next time, this is William Bell saying have a very pleasant day. Thanks.